I want to talk about the single most important metric in your membership. And it's probably not the one that you think it is. We're going to dive in just a sec. All right, so if you ask most membership owners what the most important number, the most important metric in their membership is, most would probably say churn rate or retention rate. And it makes sense that they'd say that because memberships are a retention business. And when people like us talk about memberships, quite often we're talking about churn. We're talking about how important it is to manage your member retention. However, there is a metric that's even more important than your churn rate and your retention rate. I'm talking about average member lifetime value. So your average member lifetime value means the total sum of revenue generated on average from every person who joins your membership. So if you look at how many months on average someone stays in your membership, and then you multiply that by your monthly subscription fee. And then maybe if you've got upsells, if you've got additional products you sell, you can add that in. Maybe your members will leave and then rejoin. So perhaps they have 2 or 3 stints in your membership. Add all of that up. So every penny someone spends on average in your membership, that gives you your member lifetime value, the financial return for every new customer you attract. So to keep it simple, let's say we've got a membership that costs $50 per month. And let's say on average, someone stays a member for 10 months. That means your average member lifetime value is $500. Now let's say your members will all spend around about $100 in upsells. Then that would make your member lifetime value $600. So every new sign up you get is worth, in total, in the entirety of the time that they stay a member, they are worth $600 on average to you. And it's important to know your member lifetime value and to see that bigger picture, because quite often when we're looking at how much money we make from our membership, we look at the short term. We look at today. We look at this month. We look at how much someone's monthly subscription payment is, but that doesn't tell you the story. There's 3 big reasons why member lifetime value is an important metric to know. First of all, you can use this metric to determine things like how much you should spend on acquiring new members. So any sort of paid advertising or paid marketing campaigns. If you're charging $50 a month, then on the surface, the idea of spending $100 on Facebook ads to acquire 1 new member, that might frighten the bejesus out of you, because it's $100 to get someone who today only pays you $50. That's spending double what you might make on the day that they sign up, right? Because again, often we just look at that short-term comparison. However, if we know that that sale will be worth $600 in total over the lifetime of that membership, then spending $100 to get $600 is a different kettle of fish. That's a great return, right? So having that bigger picture, knowing that overall member lifetime value changes your perspective on how much you're actually spending in terms of advertising or in terms of working with a third-party marketing company or anything like that. Totally changes that perspective on what your return is and how much you might look to invest. The second big thing that knowing your member lifetime value does is it changes your perspective on churn. Again, we say all the time, memberships are a retention business, and churn is the measure of retention. But it's important to remember that churn in isolation doesn't tell the whole story. Churn is just a single factor in determining what someone's lifetime value will be, how long they'll actually stick around. So if we go back to that example of our $50 a month membership, where people are staying for 10 months, that works out at 10% churn. But let's compare that to a membership that has 5% churn. So it's got half as much churn. But let's just say that membership charges $25 a month. So a 5% churn, that means people stay for 20 months. And so we compare the two. In our first membership, $50 a month, people stay for 10 months. Those members have a lifetime value of $500. In our second membership, it's $25 a month and people stay for 20 months. Those members also have a lifetime value of $500. So which membership is performing better? If you just looked at the churn rate, then the one with 5% churn looks better, right? 5% churn is better than 10% churn, but it's making exactly the same amount per member as the one with 10% churn. So again, which of those sites is performing better? Assessing member lifetime value gives you a different perspective on the performance of your membership. And maybe you're in an industry or a market where you just have naturally high churn, and maybe you're beating yourself up about the fact you can't bring your churn rate down. But the thing is, that's not the end of the world when you have that understanding of the relationship between churn and member lifetime value. So if you can't change the former, you can't change that churn, then it's not a case that all is lost. You can look at how to change the latter, how to increase lifetime value by increasing your price, by bringing in upsells, and so on. So again, the second big reason understanding member lifetime value is important is how it changes your perspective on churn. Churn in isolation doesn't really tell you anything. And finally, understanding member lifetime value makes it easier to judge memberships compared to other types of products and services. I've seen people give up on their membership because they couldn't deal with the fact that people would leave eventually. They were bringing in new members, they were putting all this time and effort and spend into attracting new people to their membership, and they were getting so downhearted at the fact that 9 or 10 months in, they were losing those customers. And so they decided it's pointless having a membership if people are just going to leave after 6 months. So they figure that it's better to just sell courses, since that would mean that they didn't have to deal with churn. But again, that is such a short-sighted view. As we said, churn is simply a factor in calculating lifetime value, or more specifically, in determining how long it takes to max out someone's lifetime value, to reach the total of their lifetime value. If you sell a course for $500 one time, then the lifetime value of that customer is $500. And it takes you 1 day to max out that lifetime value. You get it all up front. If you sell a membership for $50 a month and your churn rate is 10%, then the lifetime value of that customer is also $500. So does the fact that they leave after 10 months make that $500 pointless, make that customer pointless, make that business model pointless? The only difference is it takes you 10 months to max out that lifetime value, but the end result is the same. Yes, it takes longer to reach that lifetime value, but in pure dollars and cents, you earn exactly the same. And yet I've seen people give up on memberships where their average lifetime value per member was $300 to $400, but they switched to selling courses for $200 a shot because they didn't want to have to deal with churn. And immediately, in the short term, they think they've made the right decision because they're getting more money up front from those sales. But then months down the line, they're left scratching their heads, trying to figure out how they could possibly be earning less money overall. So hopefully this makes it clear why member lifetime value is the most important metric in your business. Setting everything else aside, churn rate, retention rate, they're obviously very important numbers to know, but ultimately those numbers just make up part of that bigger equation that determines how much every individual member sign up is worth to your business. And the great thing with a membership model is that the fact that it takes several months to max out the lifetime value, in some cases it might take years to max out that lifetime value. Yes, it means you're getting the revenue from those people kind of incrementally, but that time frame gives you more flexibility, more breathing room to actually influence and increase that lifetime value. If you improve retention by just 1%, if you add upsells into the mix, if you raise your price, if you can get people to stick around just 1 extra month, then all of that will increase your average member lifetime value. And when selling one-off courses and selling services where you hit that full realization of a lifetime value on day one, you don't have as much room to tinker with the different knobs and pull the different levers that can potentially increase that ceiling and see you make more revenue from your membership. So hopefully that's been useful to you. Hopefully that's given you a bit of insight into a metric that you either weren't aware of the importance of, or maybe just weren't aware of at all, or maybe you've been overlooking and instead just focusing entirely on your churn rate without looking at the bigger picture of what that churn actually means in terms of average member lifetime value and the overall revenue that your membership makes.